Overall, how did the meeting go, and what were some of the big topics that the guys here were talking about?
I think the meeting went very well. It's always good to be out and always good to talk to the producers and get a chance to see them face to face. I don't get a chance to do enough of that, so it was nice to get out. I think the key issue on the file here, I think, is some of the changes that are coming and some of the uncertainty around the changes around the new Crown Lands program that's going to be developed coming out of the changes that just passed in the legislature. So there's some good that's coming out of that, but certainly I think there's some uncertainty, and of course that always causes angst.
Yeah, so the main thing that I noticed people were talking about was the temporary suspension of Crown Land sales and that kind of stuff. What did some of the producers have to say at the meeting, and how long do you think producers are going to have to wait for the free stand?
Well, I hope really that the suspension is a short-term thing. Manitoba Beef Producers has been an advocate for the changes they're making to the Act, and we recognize that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that those changes are enacted in a way that makes sense and is sound and doesn't create more problems by trying to do something too quick without thinking it through. So, we're supportive of taking a pause, but we've got a resolution on the books coming out of the district here that we try and make sure we keep the government's feet to the fire and make sure that pause is no longer than it needs to be. That certainly, anytime you're putting a freeze on those transfers, that's putting a freeze on the ability for producers to sell their land and move their land, and for producers to buy land and buy operations. So it certainly can impede the commerce and the growth of the industry if it drags too long, for sure.
And another thing in the presentation was about antibiotics and prescriptions.
Sure.
Can you talk a bit about what he said and just what producers here reacted to it?
Yeah, there's changes coming. Animal livestock is being caught up in a worldwide phenomenon where we're losing effectiveness of some of our antibiotics, not just for animals but for humans. And as a result, Health Canada is really clamping down on some of the rules around prescribing, not just for veterinarians but for doctors as well. And so it's going to be more difficult for our producers to get a hold of some of the important drugs to look after their animals. And so there's some changes coming there in terms of a little more rigor around the process, where they were able to get the drugs more freely, and certainly that change is going to cause some questions and probably going to take a little while to get used to.
Is there anything major that Manitoba Beef Producers is going to be doing leading up to the AGM in February? Is there any big things on the horizon?
You know what? We've got leading up to the AGM in February. We've got a few more district meetings to get into the books. On December 5th, we've got a Canadian Cattlemen's Association town hall. That'll be in Morris. So it'd be great to have a good group of producers out to hear from our national association and ask some questions of those folks about where they see the industry going nationally. Other than that, we're working hard to keep up with the changes on the Crown Lands. We're going to keep working on predation. Predation is a big issue still for us, and we're hoping to advance that file and hopefully work towards a pilot program that'll work for producers, and hopefully will help address some of the losses that they're having.
District 13 has a new director. Can you just talk about who it is?
Mary Poziak. You know what? Mary's a producer. She was a director here before, and Mary's been a director in the past and served well. It was before my time, so I was never with the beef producers when Mary was on the board. But my sense, Mary is going to be a great advocate for District 13 and for the